The first 8 Superman annuals were issued in the 1960s. They were oversized editions that reprinted popular stories from various Superman family titles, often focusing on special themes or character origins. I have 6 of the 8 that I bought as a kid back in the 1960s. Let's take a look at them in this episode of the Comics My Mom Let Me Keep. Stay tuned for the video. Anachronic. Hi comic book fans, I'm Joe and welcome to Anachronic Comics. As most of you know, when my family moved back in 1969, my mom told me I had to cut my comic book collection in half. I went through my collection, and the comics I kept back then I still have today, and they are the subjects of this series. As I mentioned in the opening, I have 6 of the 8 Superman annuals. Unfortunately, I don't have numbers 1 or 4, but I have the other 6 issued in the 1960s. There were additional annuals issued, picking up in 1983 with issue number 9, but that was long after my mom's suggestion. Let's take a look at Superman annuals my mom let me keep, and I'll tell which of the stories in each annual is my favorite and why. Okay, first up is Superman Annual number 2 from 1961. This issue highlighted some of Superman's greatest foes, featuring stories with villains like Brainiac, Titano, and Bizarro. It often focused on the fantastical and outlandish challenges faced by the Man of Steel against these prominent adversaries. Of the stories typically included in Superman Annual number 2 from 1961, the standout for me is the Super Duel in Space, which features the first appearance and origin of Brainiac, a major A-list villain. Written by Otto Binder and penciled by Al Plastino, Brainiac immediately established himself as a uniquely formidable threat. His debut story, originally in Action Comics number 242 from July 1958, brought an entirely new dimension to Superman's rogue gallery. Unlike the brute strength of Titano or the chaotic nature of Bizarro, Brainiac was a cold, calculating intellect who posed a mental and scientific challenge to Superman. This story also introduces the concept of Kandor, the miniaturized Kryptonian city that Brainiac stole. This single element became a cornerstone of Superman lore for decades, offering a tragic link to Superman's lost heritage and providing a persistent motivation for him to find a way to restore the city. The miniature city in a bottle, with its trapped inhabitants, is a visually striking and emotionally resonant concept that immediately elevates Brainiac above other villains. It's not just about defeating a monster, it's about reclaiming a piece of a lost world. Okay, next up is Superman Annual number 3, titled The Strange Lives of Superman. Now, this annual delved into unusual scenarios involving Superman. The one story that always made me smile is The Super Prisoner of Amazon Island, originally published in Action Comics 235, with a cover date of December 1957. Again, written by Otto Binder and penciled by Wayne Boring, the cover was by Kurt Swan. Lois Lane and other members of the Super Sorority, who are women who were all saved at one time or another by Superman, are shipwrecked on an island of Amazons. When Superman arrives to rescue them, he discovers that the Amazons have an antidote for green kryptonite, and he decides to stay until he discovers what it is. The key is that Superman plays along with being held by the Amazons and allows a contest by which the winning woman gets to marry him. This is classic Silver Age Lois Lane type story, but with a twist. It also features a 2-page spread detailing the secrets of Superman's Fortress of Solitude and a Superman pinup. Next is Superman Annual number 5. This annual continued the trend of reprinting popular tales, often featuring a mix of Superboy adventures, interactions with the extended Superman family, and various challenges to Superman's powers and identity. There are quite a few really good stories in this issue, but my favorite is How Jimmy Olsen First Met Superman. This was from Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, number 36, from April 1959. Written by Otto Binder and drawn by Kurt Swan, who would soon graduate to being the main Superman artist. But at this point, he was still kind of a second-tier player, with Superman's look overall defined by Wayne Boring, the mainstay artist of the 1950s. In this quirky expansion of the mythos, the story fills a new layer of backstory. Before Jimmy Olsen ever set foot in the Daily Planet or met Superman, he was flung into Krypton's distant past by a scientist's time travel experiment. Now, this storyline gave Otto Binder a rare opportunity to explore the lost world of Krypton firsthand, long before its iconic destruction. While there, Jimmy doesn't just blend in, he befriends none other than Jor-El, and ends up babysitting baby Kal-El himself. When Jimmy eventually makes it back to the present, he doesn't remember a thing. Superman appears and informs him that there's a job waiting for him at the Daily Planet. The rationale? Superman remembers Jimmy from his infant days on Krypton and decides that they're destined to become friends. The relationship between Superman and Jimmy Olsen is one of the most iconic and wholesome in comics. Like many Silver Age tales, it's a relatively simple feel-good story that highlights positive values like courage, loyalty, and friendship. Next up, Superman Annual number 6 showcased the greatest superheroes of all time, featuring an array of characters connected to Superman. It includes the initial appearance of the Legion of Superheroes, the first two Supermen, referencing Superboy's encounters with Hercules and Samson, and early Supergirl stories, including a look at an earlier magically created first Super Dash Girl. So my favorite story in this issue is The Legion of Superheroes from Adventure Comics number 247, April 1958. This story was written by Otto Binder and drawn by Al Plastino, and it marks the very first appearance of the Legion of Superheroes, a group of teenage superheroes from the 30th century who travel back in time to invite Superboy to join their ranks. While patrolling Smallville, Superboy is stunned when three teenagers, Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Boy, later Lightning Lad, reveal that they know his secret identity. They've traveled back in time to invite him to join their futuristic super team, the Legion of Superheroes. So Superboy is whisked to the 30th century in a time machine and put through a series of tests to prove his worth. Each challenge pits him against one of the Legionnaires in a race to complete an heroic task. Despite his best efforts, Superboy fails all three. So just as he's about to leave in disappointment, the Legion reveals that the trials were rigged, not to test his powers, but to test his character. They were impressed by his selflessness and humility, and had already decided to induct him. He's awarded a Legion membership and returns to his own time, proud and inspired. So, though this was intended as a one-off, the Legion proved wildly popular, spawning decades of stories, new characters, and one of DC's most enduring mythologies. Of course, this version of Superboy was retconned out of existence, and so this story may no longer be part of continuity. However, this is, without a doubt, the most important story in the annual. Next up is Superman Annual number 7. This annual celebrated Superman's silver anniversary, with 1963 being 25 years since his first appearance in Action Comics number 1 in 1938. It featured diverse stories such as the Black Knight's Super Sword, Superman's Mystery Power, Superman in the White House, the Super Gorilla from Krypton, and the origin of the Superman-Batman team, depicting a youthful Bruce Wayne's encounter with Superboy. My favorite story by far in this one is the origin of the Superman-Batman team from Adventure Comics number 275, August 1960. This story depicts a youthful encounter between Superboy and a teenage Bruce Wayne, setting the stage for the legendary World's Finest Partnership. Bruce, as the Flying Fox, attempts to deduce Superboy's secret identity. This is the origin story of the greatest friendship in comics. While Superman and Batman were already established as allies, this story gives their partnership a deeper historical root, showing that their paths crossed even in their youth. The story cleverly foreshadows the adult dynamic of the Batman-Superman partnership. Even as a teenager, Bruce is suspicious, calculating, and focused on self-improvement. While Superboy is powerful, but still learning about the nuances of heroism and trust. And the last Superman annual my mom let me keep is Superman Annual number 8. Entitled A Super Collection of Untold Stories and Secret Origins, the final annual of the 1960s continued to collect memorable stories, including further tales of Superboy, Superman's interactions with classic villains, and often highlighting the more imaginative and lighthearted adventures that characterized the Silver Age of comics. My favorite in this issue is the story of Mixyzptlk. Mixyzptlk. His first prank, which originally appeared under the title The Ghost of Jor-El in Superboy number 78 from January 1960. The story was written by Jerry Siegel and drawn by George Papp. As the first meeting of Superboy and Mr. Mixyzptlk, the title, Mixyzptlk's First Prank, was used in the table of contents for Superman Annual number 8. So a mischievous Mixyzptlk, you see I have a problem with that name, a teenager from the fifth dimension gets grounded by his parents for using his magic for too many pranks. Defying them, he slips through a space warp to Earth's dimension, where he quickly sets his sights on Superboy. He unleashes a barrage of vexing pranks, even conjuring an illusion of Jor-El's ghost to try to scare Superboy away from Earth. Unbeknownst to Mixyzptlk, his father is watching. The elder Mixyzptlk sends Superboy a crucial message, revealing the only way to banish the imp is to get him to say his own name backwards. Superboy cleverly does this, sending Mixyzptlk spiraling back to his home dimension for 90 days. That's right, 90 days. There he faces his father's wrath and swears revenge on Superboy. So, I really love these annuals. They allowed me as a kid to read stories published before I started collecting, and others that I might have missed. I hope you enjoyed these comics my mom let me keep. Check out the rest of the series of comics I kept back in 1969 when my family moved. Right here. Be well, and I'll see you soon.